Definitely hit XRP today along with the broader crypto market. Quick moves because, of course, this is FOMC day. News from Jerome Powell, who flapped his lips and syllables came out of that face hole and caused ridiculous amounts of money to start sloshing around in various ways around the world. Dramatic sell-offs, people getting absolutely liquidated, and then moves to the upside. A lot of it's frankly kind of expected on an FOMC day like this. But the cool thing here with the particular news that broke today is it absolutely sets us up for an environment where risk on assets like XRP and crypto in general absolutely will thrive. So I'm going to share with you some specifics on that and some thoughts from XRP chart analysts who are, let's just say, very optimistic that XRP is going to rocket before this market cycle is complete. XRP is $2.60, Bitcoin at $111,562. But look at the 24-hour chart. This is because of Jerome Powell. So I'll say this. Markets absolutely shook, no question. Very dramatic moves. But honestly, in terms of the range of volatility, yes, this fall right here, if you're looking at the screen, yes, that looks dramatic and was. But the actual range of volatility, it wasn't like that crazy. It was within normal parameters for an FOMC day. But it's just ridiculous that we have our financial system set up in such a way that a dude just walks out to a podium, says stuff with his stupid little face hole, the syllables fall out, and then the market just responds, regardless of whether they like it or don't like it so much. So yeah, market fell, hit a bottom. XRP got as low as $2.57. It's up a little bit from then. Same story with Bitcoin, just to varying degrees, but you can see, start speaking at 1:30 p.m. Central, just fell off a cliff there. Very normal stuff. So you get this headline from CoinDesk. Bitcoin tumbles back to $110,000 on Fed's Powell's hawkish comments. And look, so in a nutshell, here's what you need to know. All right, I can sum this up real quick for you. The Federal Reserve just got the federal funds rate by 25 basis points. That's 0.25%. And that brings the range down to 3.75% to 4%. And he also, and this is a huge part of the news, he also announced that quantitative tightening will officially end on December 1st of this year. And so that means the Fed will stop shrinking its balance sheet. And so, that's effectively moving one of the biggest liquidity drains on the system, because when it's reducing its balance sheet, less money available to people and businesses. And lower rates, and an end to quantitative tightening, they both signal easier financial conditions, which certainly historically fuel inflows into higher risk assets, specifically equities and cryptocurrencies like XRP. And so for XRP holders, this marks the first real shift toward, a more supportive macro backdrop. But it's probably frankly, the macro backdrop, this is probably the best we've seen in like over 2 years. And it's exactly the kind of environment where liquidity rotation can absolutely start driving crypto higher, which is my expectation, even if we see a pullback first. And some analysts do still think we're going to see that before ultimately things move higher. Now, I've seen some people misreporting here, stating that because quantitative tightening is ending, that means quantitative easing is beginning. We need money printing. That is actually not true. They're just reducing their practices that would drain money from the system, which is a good start. So you're going the right way, but this isn't a full-on QE environment that we'll be entering here. Though, of course, that also, I don't need to tell you guys, that obviously fuels price action for risk on assets like stocks and crypto. And then there was this post from Nijin Tropic account. This is run by the co-founders of Glassnode and Swissblock, the fantastic on-chain analytics firms. And he wrote, QT ends December 1st. Let the front running begin. Most don't get this one key point. Markets thrive on predictability. And folks, that's exactly correct. We just wanted to, and that's why, if you're wondering, why did markets start rallying after the election in November last year? The market participants just wanted a damn answer. And that's why I said, even if the election went the other way, and if Trump had not won, even if you were to see a pullback because the market didn't like that, they would stabilize still. Market would then know what to do, and then we would have proceeded upward to whatever degree. It's just obviously the case that more money has flown in this environment that's created under this particular administration. I don't think anyone would reasonably dispute that if you're in crypto land, like you can see it firsthand. But just to drive the point home, markets thrive on predictability. That's what he says. Yes, absolutely correct. And we've got some additional clarity. Oh, and there was one thing that was a bit negative. He said that it's not Jerome Powell said that it's not a foregone conclusion that there will be another rate cut in December, as the market has been pricing in on prediction markets. So that doesn't mean there won't be. But I don't know why Jerome Powell wanted to throw some cold water on everybody out there. I'd be surprised. Like, are the prediction markets that off? Usually no. And yes, they'll shift, but we'll just see what happens here. Hopefully there is another one, because that's what market wants. The market wants. Here's a post from Watcher Guru. Just in, $300 million liquidated from the crypto market in the past 15 minutes as Fed Chair Jerome Powell delivers FOMC speech. And that was at 1:46 p.m. So that's 16 minutes after he trotted himself out to the podium to start flapping his face hole, just to put syllables out there into the world. $300 million liquid. Is there anybody that thinks this is a sane system? This is completely ridiculous. I find it funny, but it's very stupid and bad. Then we had this headline from MSNBC, because look, obviously market conditions, what's happening in terms of the Fed cutting rates, quantitative tightening, all that. That's one concern the market has had, but then there's also the tariff fears. Well, is that going to go away? Probably. I mean, almost certainly. Here's the headline. Trump touts a big deal with Xi ahead of their crucial meeting. That, of course, Xi, of course, is the president of China, and there's a picture of both of them having fun together. They're probably holding hands. It's just cropped here, but I bet they're holding hands. They have a good friendship. They hold hands. I want to say, like, it's the same thing I said in April, frankly. When the tariff news spooked markets, I was like, guys, this is a negotiating tactic that Trump is using. He's not actually going to implement a tariff situation that will absolutely destroy the economy of the United States. Like, that's not something he was going to do. He was brash about it, and it's fine if you don't like the approach. That's neither here nor there. I'm just telling you that's what it was. And so then when he started, threatening another 100% tariff on China on October 10th, which led to the biggest liquidation of in crypto history, I told you guys, like, I don't buy this at all. It's just harsh words from the president here. And now we're getting soft words as we get closer. And so this is a post from Donald Trump on, I'm assuming this is from True Social. And this post, this screen grab here, was shared by the official White House account. Here you can see this is the official White House account from 2.9 million followers. And here's what the president had to say just this morning. Bringing back trillions of dollars to USA, a great trip. Dealing with very smart, talented, and wonderful leaders. Tomorrow, President Xi of China. It will be a great meeting for both. President DJT. So does that sound like somebody's going to slap a 100% tariff on China? I'm thinking not. I'm thinking that won't ever actually happen, and there was never any real chance that it was going to. So I don't know if any more messiness is going to occur before this is actually resolved, but this is another thing that the market wants clarity on. And so there have been some people questioning, and understandably, once this is cleared up, is it going to be a sell the news event? Is it going to go to the downside? I guess the answer is maybe. I'm not necessarily convinced of that. It could be, but I'm not necessarily convinced of that, because there are legitimately a lot of people out there that are very concerned that this won't be resolved and that the outcome will be poor. And those people clearly are risk off at this moment. So if it depends on, like, the question is whether most people think that or don't think that. So we'll see. I mean, it's plausible. I'm not particularly concerned about it. And even if there is a sell the news event anyway, that would be a temporary thing based on news, and then you still trend higher. It's like this, the macro factors are still the macro factors. But once we get these headwinds behind us, it's going to be clear sailing, man. Here's a post from Crypto Michael. He certainly agrees with this. Here's a Bitcoin chart. He says, Bitcoin bears are delusional. The tariff dump was just a bullish retest. New all-time high next. So he's certainly not afraid of that. It's Crypto Michael. Here's a post from Bob Lucas, a very popular chart analyst on X, 361,000 followers. He's certainly not worried big picture. He says, Bitcoin, rough thoughts. And folks, I will just say this. If you're like me and you care way more about XRP, totally fine. You should still be interested in what happens with Bitcoin because it leads the market. The higher it goes, the more XRP will likely be worth. That's what I think. So he says, this 4-year cycle has been different to the priors in many ways and has a different class of participants. Therefore, we shouldn't be too absolute in expectations. We need to give it room within the bounds of the cycle, as in a move to a Q1 or even Q2, well within the range of the cycle that affords room for the normal bear phase. 6 to 8 months would suffice. Folks, that's interesting, isn't it? Another very well-known crypto analyst coming around to the idea that perhaps we really are seeing an elongated bull cycle that could spill into perhaps halfway through 2026. Interesting. I shared the thesis from Raoul Pal and Julian Biddle and TechDev dating back to either late last year or early this year. It was somewhere around there. Because there's a thesis about how the market cycle is likely to extend based on where we are with in terms of global liquidity and the business cycle. I don't want to go into it again in this video. I've talked about it a lot recently, but it's just interesting. We're getting to the end of the year here, and people are like, yeah, actually, it's probably going to spill into next year. They're not flipping bearish. Most people are. They're not, at least not the analysts I follow. They're saying, yeah, actually, it's just an elongated cycle. And there's a reasonable thesis as to why. We're going from a 4-year cycle to 5 years currently anyway, having to do with debt refinancing. It changes the flow of global liquidity. That's the thesis from Raoul Pal, founder and CEO of Real Vision and global macro investor. Anyway, then Bob says he wrote on the bull side, seasonality, although slow so far, still on its side. Haven't seen a blow off or euphoric-like move, and the monthly trend has not broken down. Equities remain hot and trending well. Now, folks, that's in line with what I was talking about. Do you really think we're going to have this crypto cycle end without a euphoric blow-off top, without a rotation, people taking profit from Bitcoin and going in alt? Why would that human behavior, a very normal human behavior, why would that no longer exist? Because there obviously is profit that could be taken from Bitcoin even now if it were sufficiently enticing for people, and it could be thrown into altcoins. I just don't think they're done yet. Anyway, and then he says, these give me reasons to remain on the bull side and wait patiently. But there's also a lot of cope in the space because currently the price action sucks. Alt holders are down big, more so from being chopped apart. We hope this changes, but most of the space, except Bitcoin, is in a downtrend. And I'll pause and note, XRP, certainly not a downtrend. It was up like close to 600% from the bottom to the top of this cycle, 49 cents to $3.65. Not looking too shabby. Anyway, it says TradFi crypto stocks like Coin, Circle, MicroStrategy, which is now Strategy, in multi-month declines, lower highs. Ultimately, at this stage, I think this recent 3 to 5 month range is key. There is some tolerance for one quick lower low in Bitcoin, but in general, I think Bitcoin has to start catching some of the bid pretty soon and start the leg higher. Stocks aren't going to keep ripping higher forever. Any new all-time highs allow us to set a risk line at the recent $103,000 level lows. Personally, want almost nothing to do with alts here. If we topped, you're not getting away from your alt positions. That certainly, I would agree with that. If we actually did top, I mean, this is market's done. It's good luck. He says, if Bitcoin hasn't topped, it's very likely to outperform alts initially anyway, giving you a chance to rotate later as things heated again. Okay, and so my stance on rotation is no. For you guys do it if you want. I am not interested in that additional layer of risk. That's why once I buy stuff, I do absolutely nothing, no matter what. I remove the human component myself from my investments. That's what I do. I buy and then I do nothing. Now, as far as saying Bitcoin would outperform initially, yeah, that would historically be normal. And then ultimately profits taken and then it rotates into alts. And that's what he's saying there. So yeah, I certainly agree with that aspect. Here's a post from Credible Crypto just a few hours ago. This was at 1:49 p.m. He says, testing that daily demand at range lows is for Bitcoin. This is a key zone that should hold, in my opinion. And then just a little bit after that, 2:52 p.m., he reposted that and wrote, since we've already taken local highs into the gap in the blue above, if we can hold a higher low here into daily demand, we should see at least $120,000 plus and potentially new all-time high above $126,000 plus, in my opinion. And so he's still fully optimistic that we're going to see more all-time highs for Bitcoin. He still believes it's going to go parabolic, and he still believes that altcoins like XRP are going to rocket. And he has predicted that XRP this cycle is going to peak somewhere between $20 to $30. He has not changed his stance based on anything that's unfolded. Here's a post from chart analyst Hubwaves, and he says, XRP up 70% from our level and continuing to grind higher as we expected. $2.94 is calling. Higher time frame close above, and we all get GF's girlfriends. Well, I don't have a girlfriend, but I don't need one because I have a fiance. And by the way, actually, I haven't even mentioned that on this channel, but I'll just, since we're here, I'll just blurb about it real quick. And I shared the information on X. But on September 23rd, I proposed to my longtime girlfriend And I got the answer I was expecting and hoping for. She said yes, so I am now engaged, and I have been for a little over a month, and we are very excited for this. No date set yet. So no, I don't have a girlfriend, but I also don't need one. Getting married, son. Very excited for it. Then there was this from chart analyst Bark. He says, this is your last chance to buy XRP under $3. Once the rocket takes off, you'll pay 10x the price. And then you look, I don't make price predictions, so I'm not going to speak to the levels, but the concept behind this, of course he's right about this. People are never interested in the dull moments when something's ranging, whatever the asset is, in this case XRP, not interested. But then there's a line out the door to make purchases once it rockets in price. And this is why I keep saying, like, if you're wondering, well, if XRP, it's only $2.60 now, who would pay $10 for it? They're going to be like, that's way too... No, that's when the FOMO kicks in. Think about it. XRP used to be 49 cents less than a year ago. And you could have said, well, who would pay $3.65 for it, which happened this year? It ultimately happened. Well, the people that FOMO in, that's how humans behave. Don't think that's going to change. This is human nature. You got to count on people acting like people. Here's the post from chart analyst Casey Trades. Still ranging, still valid. XRP set up for a final wave down. XRP is also at a major decision point. Price continues to test the wave 4 highs. This resistance is keeping another wave down totally valid. To invalidate that move, XRP needs to break and hold above $2.82 on Binance. So far, it hasn't. We're still ranging between support and resistance, which leans toward this being a wave 4, needing one final move lower before the next macro impulse. When a V-shaped recovery is forming, price breaks through resistance immediately and decisively. That's not happening here. The hesitation suggests sell pressure isn't fully exhausted. Exchanges are aligning toward their .618 retracements, with Binance showing $1.35 to $1.46. This next wave down would complete the macro wave 2 correction, setting the stage for the next wave 3 impulse that could carry XRP towards $6.50 or $10. And so here's another analyst, and there have been actually a number of them warning XRP could go lower first. And I've been highlighting them. I'm not afraid to share the negative aspects along with the positive. Saying that XRP could go lower first. That doesn't change the higher time frame view, just meaning big picture what happens. And here she's saying that could be what carries XRP to $6.50 to $10. Then she says, these deeper support levels aren't a reason to panic. They're high conviction accumulation zones. So take it for what it's worth, but that's a lot of that is actually in line with what I'm seeing from a number of analysts right now. And not all of them think that we have to go lower. In fact, most don't, but a lot of them do actually. So it stands out to me to some degree. Here's a post from chart analyst Ether National. He says, XRP continues to mirror its 2017 setup. And I'll pause and note he posted this about an hour and a half before Jerome Powell trotted his ass out to that podium and started flapping his gums, saying syllables that cause people to get liquidated. But then he says, the structure remains intact, with accumulation deepening right below the breakout zone, just like before the last parabolic run. Patience here could be key. So again, another analyst saying, guys, big picture, structurally, nothing's broken. And I do buy this argument. I pointed this out even before we got the burst in November of last year. I was talking about how historically XRP behaves. You get a major leg up, then you get consolidation, then the final leg up. And so you can say that's what happened in 2017. Leg up, consolidation, final leg up. Here we've gotten, for this cycle, the leg up, consolidation isn't over, waiting for that final leg up. And so, and the timing makes sense. If we're going to have an alt season, you better believe XRP is going to be a part of it. So it's not exactly a crazy thought, especially not in terms of just historical context. Here's a post from Chartner. He says, XRP, it's crunch time. Price is currently compressing between the daily 20/55 EMAs, that'd be the red circle on your screen. And he says, I see one of two paths. Either clear the 55 EMA and retest the EMAs before a run to new all-time highs, or reject at the 55 EMA to build a base near $2.20 before attempting to break out. There you go. Another analyst warning it's at least possible you could see XRP a lot lower before you move higher. It's going to scare people. There will be liquidations. There will be stop losses that get hit and price cascading on down perhaps. And there will be people that are panic selling. And it will not be the end of XRP. The people who are not emotionally driven will be like, oh, yeah, the market's doing a market thing, the people are panicking. And then those who are interested in purchasing more XRP will view it as a great time to accumulate XRP cheaper. That's what happens. XRP, it won't mean XRP's dead. That in and of itself will not mean that the cycle's over, but people will freak out. And here's another post from Chartnerd. He says, excuse me, don't confuse my short-term XRP analysis with my macro fractal analysis targets. There is a huge difference. Thanks in advance. And so I think he probably wrote that because people were like, wait a minute, it could go down. And he's like, guys, chill out, bro. Because he's been talking about XRP peaking perhaps closer to $27. And he's just saying that's the higher time frame. That's the macro target, right? But in the short term, yeah, it's possible it could go down. So he's acknowledging that. Totally reasonable. Not a problem. The best is yet ahead. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea.